Wake up. Good morning this morning. It's the last day of April. If your partners ain't cut yet, you can't leave because we burning them on the fire this morning. Welcome to Junkanoo 242. You are in the E-Shack with us this morning. It's such a breath of fresh air. We had a squall of rain yesterday, Arlene. I don't know if you was on the hill when that rain came on late last night, right? But we had a squall of rain. Now all the sun is out. Everybody who painting cloth to start pacing. Everybody who got patterns that was drying and then cut, because you know we burning them today. Be happy that you're in the E-Shack with us this morning. Special good morning to our family of islands, everybody in the Facebook crew, and everybody's listening to us on ZNS 104.5 FM. Good morning, Arlene. How you doing this morning, man?
Man, that squall of rain catch me right on the top of Centerville Hill. I
Listen
mean,
here.
it is over. I must see anger reach.
All I have to say is, I believe you all have to take a different route when you're all trying to get to Bay Street, because obviously that Centerville Hill, that's a challenge for y'all in rain. That's
You
that's
know,
I,
y'all really need to let some things go. Boy. Y'all really need to let some things go.
but you always get trapped there all the time.
All the time, every year, they rob us every year. Anyhow, let us get started this morning because we have another wonderful show for you. And so let us begin the way we always do with our Junkanoo 242 prayer. Let us pray. Heavenly Father, for the gift of life, we give you thanks. For our nation, we pray for peace, progress, prosperity and principle, recovery and restoration. And for ourselves, we pray for wisdom to use your gifts wisely, especially the gift of Junkanoo, so that we may honor you, serve your people, build better communities, a better Bahamas, and a better world. Amen.
Ah man,
What you
proud
got?
to
Proud
be
to be
Bahamian.
Bahamian. Give it to me straight.
Man, listen, there's been a number of stuff going on in the community that had me smiling this week. Um, the one that caught me that I'm really happy to excited to see come off is I saw a flyer for a Junkanoo camp, Arlene, this week
Oh,
floating around a Junkanoo camp. Yes, I'm
all
gonna try
right.
and get the details of that flyer and put it
Mm-hmm.
on our Facebook page. Yeah, it's a Junkanoo camp that goes through the various the dance portion, music, the pacing portion. We get the details and see if we can get that up on our Facebook page. And also on Thursday past, the Bahamas All Star Band had documentary. They had a documentary viewing. They released their 10th year um documentary of them
Nice.
being in existence for 10 years over the past 10 years, and they did
Mm-hmm.
that on Thursday, and I was like, oh man, that is something. What was so good is that, we last week we were just talking about, youth development programs and things that are going
Mm-hmm.
on, and it's
Mm-hmm.
so exciting and a breath of fresh air to see an organization, keep on, it's not the only one, but it's still growing and helping such young people in the arts and music. And of course, we know a lot of those individuals participate in Junkanoo, but even furthermore, a lot of them go on to further their education using
Mm-hmm.
that skill set of music. So that
Mm-hmm.
was that was my proud to be Bahamian moment for this week.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, my proud to be Bahamian moment takes a different format. I want to say a special good morning to Mrs. Sheila Murray. She never misses our show, and she took the time to write a letter, which I collected. And we are, Mrs. Murray, we are so grateful for you. She came from Barbados in 1956. She's been in love with Junkanoo ever since. She has
Wow.
taught dozens, if not scores, if not hundreds of Bahamian children, and we are deeply grateful for her contribution to the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. And of course, we are thrilled that she is in the E-Shack with us every Saturday morning. And so, Mrs. Murray, thank you for taking the time to write the letter to us. We are grateful. We celebrate you and we thank you again. And so that's my proud to be Bahamian moment.
Well, you can't get no better than that. People just get up on Saturday, every Saturday morning to listen to y'all. My
Yeah,
gosh.
that's right. Talking nonsense.
What do you think y'all want to talk about is Junkanoo? My
That's all
goodness.
y'all want to talk about. Y'all ain't got nothing else to do.
Well, folks, we have another exciting, I would say this is going to be an unearthing show this morning. And we have a lot of things that are happening in the country, out of the country, but especially surrounding Junkanoo. When we get back on the next side of the break, we're going to introduce our guests and let you know what the topic is for this morning. If you wasn't following us on Facebook, we'll see you on the next side of the break. We'll be right back.
What you hear on this radio station is governed by IRCA's Code of Practice for Content Regulation. The Code of Practice covers matters relating to program content that are of concern to the community, such as local content, news, current affairs, and programs for children, advertising, including political advertisements, and the responsibilities associated with broadcasting in the Bahamas. The code also covers aspects such as access services for the hearing and visually impaired, and the procedure for lodging a complaint about anything broadcast by this station. The code is available on the IRCA website at www.ircabahamas.bs. To receive a copy of the code by mail or in person, you may telephone IRCA at 242-393-0234. Family Island dialing is toll-free at 1-242-300-8722. Or you may send a request by email to info@ircabahamas.bs.
Respect the sign. When vehicles without an accessible parking permit use a parking space designated for persons with disabilities, even for just a minute, that's 60 seconds too long. Abuse of accessible parking spaces is a daily frustration for persons with disabilities. It is inconsiderate, insensitive, and hinders persons with disabilities from effectively conducting business and actively participating in community life. Never park in a space reserved for people with disabilities unless you have a permit to do so. It is the right and respectful thing to do. This message is brought to you by the National Commission for Persons with Disabilities, a unit in the Ministry of Social Services and Community Development. For more information, visit www.disabilitiescommissionbahamas.org.
From the Junkanoo archives on the Junkanoo timeline, the year was 2000. The vibrant 13-year-old Mount Tabor Full Gospel Baptist Church was retiring its mortgage, and in glorious thanksgiving to their God, the joyful congregation gathered at Goodman's Bay. From there, they processed in festive praise to the bank on Cable Beach to complete the formalities, and to the rhythm of Junkanoo, with whistles, drums, bells, and horns, a sincere thank you to their God in true Bahamian style. Another exciting moment on the Junkanoo timeline.
It certainly was. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Whistle Blow. We are lined up and we are ready for this segment of our show. This is the rollover. Let's get ready to roll. You may know, you may have heard that a few weeks ago there was a trip to the motherland, specifically to Ghana, and it was organized by Christopher Davis, Sankofa Flamingo. And this morning we are delighted to have Chris as our very special guest, along with his traveling companions, some of them anyhow. Angelique Mckay, Naya, I see you got a new name. I guess I can't call you Naya no more. Angelique Mckay and Micheal Pateman, who traveled with him. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning, good morning. Good morning, good morning.
Good morning. It is so good to have you all in the E-Shack with us. We are so looking forward to this. And let me start right off the top on preempt. Let me jump the gun right at the very beginning. Angelique has been on before many times, and so has Chris. We want to add a special welcome to Micheal this morning. Now, you all too young, you probably don't know, but his mother, Jean Pateman, just so you understand this link with Junkanoo, as I recall, and Micheal, tell me if I'm correct, his mother was a teacher at Uriah McPhee Primary School, and this was during the early days of the Junior Junkanoo Parade.
It was the first years of Junior Junkanoo Parade.
The first year, thank you.
Yeah.
And she put Uriah McPhee on the map. Uriah McPhee was the school to beat. And every time I hear his name, I remember his mother fondly. And so, Micheal, good morning. The other two will forgive me for singling you out. Good morning and welcome as well.
Thank you for the special morning, but I just want to add to that, you are correct. So she was with Uriah involved the first couple of years of Junior Junkanoo, and those years Uriah dominated Junior Junkanoo.
Yeah.
I mean, just dominated. Yeah, she was a wonderful, wonderful person. So we are doubly delighted to have you here. And so, Mr. Davis, good morning. Now, you know, you all got all these new names. What I pose to be calling you now?
You can still call me that if you want to. That's fine.
Okay, don't put me off the wheel yet.
Fine.
So it is so exciting to have you. You've been engaged in some very exciting things, and you know, teachers, we always start at the very, very, very beginning. I want you, for those persons who may not have heard you on an earlier show sometime back before the trip, I want you to please tell us exactly what led to the trip. What was the purpose of it? How did it happen? Set the groundwork for us, please.
Well, I'm actually a researcher at the Antiquities Monuments Museum Corporation. But research is a 24/7 thing for me, actually. And so I also co-founded with my wife the Sankofa Flamingo organization. And it was all about research, and it began with me, you know, beginning to write this book. And central to the book, I wanted to, because I already had some theories from the little research that I did a few years ago. And then a few years ago, I really delved into the researching the origins of Junkanoo. Why do we call it Junkanoo? Why does it exist or seemingly exist in these other places? And so I was very curious. And that is what led me to Southwest Ghana. The first trip was in July of 2021, even though I've been researching it since 2017. Then the second trip was in October, and then the third trip was just now. And every trip that we took, the Sankofa Flamingo organization actually grew. So Angelique and Dr. Pateman are actually, or I should say Queen Mother, Angelique, and Dr. Pateman, Asafo, Dr. Pateman, I should say. They all received these titles as well on the third trip. Now, the main core of the organization as it stands right now is, of course, myself and my wife as founders, our partner, Robin, and then you have me, Angelique, Dr. Pateman, Robin, my wife, Oswald White. These are all directors working in various capacities of the organization. And it's essentially began as just researching, finding out who this guy was, and now it's evolved into something much, much, much bigger that I think not only will change the Bahamian historical narrative, but even challenge some of the global historical narratives as well as bring an unprecedented level of intrinsic value to Junkanoo. not only for those of us that practice it and are familiar with it, but to all people of African descent throughout the diaspora, because of what it actually represents, being freedom, put it plainly.
Mhm, mhm. Excellent. And so your research while you are at AMMC led to you, because of course there were many stories about who Junkanoo was. And so that is what piqued your curiosity to find out exactly who he was. We'll talk about his relationship with the festival later on, but right now we are talking about him. Okay. Right. And so that initiated 3 trips to Ghana. And so tell us in a nutshell what you found, because like you said on another show, some people had him as a slave who was granted all kind of nonsense. Some people, and forgive me, I don't mean to be
no problem,
but it was really all kind of nonsense. People had him.
It's the passion that we share, because Junkanoo already has precious value to us as Bahamians, So when we hear certain things and we learn certain things, and anyone who researched Junkanoo are familiar with some of the more, I would even say, grotesque, kind of examples. Like coming out of North Carolina, they even said that we were simply just mimicking our slave masters, because we didn't know nothing about Christmas, didn't know nothing about festivals, we didn't have no culture of any worth, and so we was just mimicking that. And so essentially, to put it in a nutshell and sum it up, he was an Ahanta general. The same name that you actually see there, Asafohene, it essentially means king of the warriors. And that is what he was first for the Ahanta people, and then actually for the wider Ashanti kingdom. Crucially, in its beginning phases, when Oswe Tutu was on the throne, and then even crossing into the rule of their second king, Apuru Ware I. And so even the Ashanti, even the Fante, and his name actually spread throughout different groups in Ghana. And in a nutshell, this guy, to put it in layman's term, he was like the minister of defense for this entire region, covering all of Western Ghana, going into central Ghana, and right along the coast as far as Cape Coast Castle. And he fought vigorously against the transatlantic slave trade, the British, the Dutch. With the assistance of Dr. Pateman and the entire team, we've been able to unearth even more stuff that now not only unequivocally prove that our festival is, that he represents the namesake of all of these Junkanoos around the world. So where there's Junkanoo in the Bahamas, where there's John Cooners in North Carolina, where there's Johnny Canoe in Belize, where there's the Red Bull or the John Bull Festival that they have in the Virgin Islands in St. Vincent. Even aspects of Mashrami in Guyana, and you even see remnants of it in New Orleans as well. But I think that the remnants in New Orleans is more so of New Orleans being this diverse cultural hub, and then that culture just coming there at a certain point. But it could also be similar to the Bahamas, to the Carolinas, where it came directly from the Ahanta region. But essentially, Bahamians need to know who this man was, and that we are directly attached. As a matter of fact, this is almost an unprecedented level of showing where we have a specific group of African people where we could actually pinpoint villages that Bahamians literally can call home, particularly from a cultural perspective. And that is why, even though these festivals evolve in other ways, you see that name still stuck there. And so even though in Belize it's a play, in the Bahamas it's now a parade. In certain areas it's almost like just a ritual even, particularly in Jamaica. And so it's now unequivocally proven, particularly when you trace the transatlantic slave trade as well, that this man, Jan Kwao, being his real name, with several variations depending on the different dialects. Dr. Pateman could tell you how complex all of that is. But Jan Kwao is the name that we all kind of came to this general consensus that we should go with, giving credence to both what the locals and his family descended from and his family would say, as well as information we received from the Ahanta Traditional Council as well.
Now, Chris, don't give away too much information because we
Yeah,
want
no.
everyone to buy your book.
All right then. Yeah, well, that's still only the tip of the iceberg, you know? Yeah, yeah.
The
We
very
will
tip.
definitely be buying the book. Don't worry about a thing. And so you made the 3 trips. You were able to get the whole story. And so now the whole legend of Junkanoo has been clarified. It's
Yeah.
been explained. It's now very clear. We don't have to come up with all these stories anymore.
No, no. And I think
Okay.
that once, as Dr. Pateman was alluding to, once you purchase the book and you see the way that the empirical data matches with newspaper stories and secondary sources and all of these things come together, I don't think it's any denying that. The only more exciting part of the research is actually delving into his life, which we've already begun to do as well.
Excellent. And so let me ask you this. Well, first of all, we better hear about the trip. But I have a question about Junkanoo and how he is connected to the festival. I have some challenges there that we will talk about. But let's talk about the trip itself. Doc, how was it?
That sigh right there should answer all of your questions.
Yes.
It was a very profound trip. I've been listening to Christopher talk about the research and the trips for a while now, and he kept saying to me, "You have to come. You have to come. You have to see for yourself." And as he was telling me about his research, I was even challenging him on a lot of it. And that's what we do in academics. We challenge each other because we want to
Absolutely.
make sure that the research has its
Right.
integrity.
Right.
And just being on the trip, I dropped all of my questions.
Wow.
Just the integrity of his research is just so profound. He talked about all of the sources, but then what he didn't talk about is just the amount of oral histories that he's collected. And the oral histories, in the West, scholars tend to frown on the use of oral histories to tell history. But it's just so integral there. It's such a part of the life and the culture. And when we hear the same story with just slight variations across the coast, hundreds of miles away, it gives you this sort of profound feeling like, wow, this is a powerful story. This is some legitimate research. And now that I'm actually sitting down and editing Christopher's book, I'm blown away with what he's included, because what I do when I read a book, I tend to have my computer open and different things open because I like to, if it's something that catches me, I like to check the sources.
You're checking it, right?
Yeah, and so since I'm editing it for him, I am really diving into some of the sources and just blown away with the level of research. So you asked about the trip, so I went on a side tangent there.
No, that's fine. We always say, I should have said this to you before, as this is your first time. If we don't ask the right question you want to answer it anyway.
Yeah, I can tend to go on a little bit of tangents sometimes.
No problem.
The trip. So on the trip, we went on a journey, and some of it I'll talk about, and some of it I'll say, wait for the documentary to see more. But our first stop on the journey was the oldest slave trading fort in the African continent, Elmina Castle. And it's actually one of the oldest European buildings outside of Europe. As an academic, I've read about Elmina Castle. I've watched documentaries on Elmina Castle. I knew what Elmina Castle looked like. I knew it. I don't want to say I know everything about it, but I knew a lot about it. Walking in and seeing it had a very emotional effect on me. I'm not a very emotional person. I'm not a very spiritual person. But we went into the dungeon where they kept 300 African slaves, the men. And I looked around that room and I'm like, this is a tight fit for just a couple of us. I couldn't even imagine. And I started crying. I was in the back of everybody, so nobody saw me. But the tears started coming down. And when Angelique talks, she'll talk about similar experiences. We talked about the number of enslaved Africans who came there as captured Africans and how many actually left. We always talk about, I think it's 3 out of 10 don't survive the journey across the Atlantic. But then they threw another number at us. I think they said 7 out of 10 who arrived at Elmina don't make the journey.
Didn't make it on the boat, right?
Didn't make it on the boat. And I was just like, that paused me. And I'm a mathematician also. So immediately in my mind, I started calculating numbers. The numbers that we talk about enslaved people, I was just like, it's way too low. Yeah. If you're talking about 7 out of 10, and am I right with that number? Is that what they told us, Chris? I can't remember.
Man, that's exactly what they said. 7 out of 10, and that was just even W.B. Du Bois used to actually talk about it in his research on the slave trade, talking about that amount of people that would have died in transit and in waiting on the ship. That's
and not even taking in the number who died from wherever they were snatched, to use Darren's word, from wherever they were snatched until they got to the coast. So it's just a constant waves of murder is what it was.
Oh yeah, it's definitely, I mean, you can't call it anything else. It's murder. It's, in today's terms, it's war crimes. It's, you cannot get away from that. And just, I couldn't believe it, the count. And I said, you know what, we are ignoring certain aspects of this story where we talk about those who die on the voyages. We talk about those who die on arrival. But how many die waiting for those ships to come? Because sometimes it would be months waiting for ships because they have to wait for the weather to be right. They have to wait for the ships to come back. I mean, yes, a lot were moving, but still, it was a lot. And so I think that's something from a global research standpoint, we really need to pay attention more to the numbers of Africans who died and who were captured and who never made it to being enslaved.
Yeah. It's and you know, excuse me, as you talk about your experience at Elmina, I can only imagine, because just watching the documentaries from this distance, you feel it. That's the only way I can put it. You feel it, and you know, the Ma'afa, such a tragic chapter in all of our lives that still resonates today. And so I am glad that you had that experience. It's our version of going to Mecca. It's our version of Islam going to Mecca. You know, this is our Mecca, and I'm glad that you had that opportunity. So Naya, tell me about your experience.
Good morning. I'm in the car waiting for Zion to come from soccer practice, so pardon me for being absent visually.
Yes, Queen Mother.
But there you go. I had to turn on the camera to say that I am Queen Mother, Asafa Chariba of Pocasoo, and the Hanta people of West Ghana. And the trip was utterly amazing. Y'all are talking about the one topic that I have difficulty dealing with. So I will allow you all to talk about that slavery aspect without me adding much to it. But seeing that we were talking about Elmina, that Pateman would have mentioned how emotional that aspect was. And it's heart-wrenching. It literally moves your soul, walking through those walls and walking the same path that our ancestors would have walked in the past. He said people didn't see him cry, but I'm sure everybody saw me cry, and everybody knows I'm I'm tough as nails.
Yes.
But this is a topic that really brings out my emotions.
Yeah.
The area that was most heartbreaking to me was when we went in the female quarters.
The women's, yes, yes.
Yeah, and
yes.
there was this huge heavy ball that they would attach to the ankles of women that were unruly, non-submissive, and were aggressive against their captors, trying to take them and manhandle and sexually assault them. And immediately I said that I needed to touch and lift that ball because I knew I would be in that grouping.
Right away.
I would be in that grouping.
Right away.
And I lifted and I could not take it past my knee.
Hey.
I asked Nana to lift that for me. And he lifted for me and I held it waist high. And I had to drop it because it was so heavy. And just the thought and putting myself in a position to where those women would have been broke my heart. And it made me angry. I often get too emotional, so I steer clear of that particular topic.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
But before I go any further, I want to say good morning to my people in Cat Island. Good morning to my people in Pocasoo. And good morning to my people in Ahanta.
Let's just listen to your girl showing off herself. Go for yourself.
There you go.
If you got it, flaunt it, girl. Yeah, it was emotional. So this is a good point. We are going to take a break right here, ladies and gentlemen. I know you are as captivated by this conversation as we are. So please stay put. We are going to run to our first commercial break. And when we return, we will continue to journey with our 3 Bahamian ambassadors. We'll be right back.
The Princess Margaret Hospital Blood Bank is in urgent need of blood donations of all types. Blood bank hours of operation are as follows. Monday through Saturday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. The last donor will be accepted at 4:30 p.m. On Sundays, the blood bank is closed. Identification needed for donation include your NIB card or driver's license. Do not attempt to donate if you are sick or experiencing respiratory symptoms. Do not come to the blood bank in large groups, as we will be accommodating 3 persons at a time. For more information on how you can become a blood donor or instructions on what to do before coming to donate blood, please contact the blood bank at 502-7822.
So you saw Larry take the money off the teacher's desk?
Yes, Mom.
And you told the teacher?
No, Mom.
Why not?
Because Larry wouldn't want to be my friend no more.
Honey, Larry did something wrong and you need to tell an adult. You may feel bad, but it is important that you do the right thing. Nobody has to find out that you told.
Okay.
Small crimes lead to big crimes. If you see a crime, you can call Crime Stoppers. It's safe and easy, and nobody knows who you are. You'll speak directly to someone in Miami or Toronto, Canada. They never ask anything about you. So be brave and do the right thing. We all need to help. Stop the crime before it's our time.
Guess what, Mommy? I feel good because I told somebody about Larry and the teacher get our money back. So pick up the phone. No one will ever call you a snitch.
Call Crime Stoppers Bahamas today at 328-8477 or from the Family Islands, 242-300-8477. It's safe, and the life you save may be your own.
This public service announcement was brought to you by Crime Stoppers in conjunction with the Broadcasting Corporation of the Bahamas.
From the Junkanoo Library, filed under B for banner. One thing a Junkanoo group never leave home without is a banner. Oh boy, we love to rush behind our banner. Banners on bay have become an art form. In the 1950s, Banners were well over 6 feet in the air and carried on 2 poles. In the 1960s, banners were compact, portable, danceable, and to be a banner boy was a great honor. They and the leaders were the only performers up front. Eventually, wheels were permitted on the banner, and they have now grown in size and special effects. Smoke, flashing lights, a television screen, people coming out, going in, rushing through the banners. Another way to express our creativity, evolving art form in our Junkanoo. We just love it.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Junkanoo 242. The whistle blow. We are lined up and now it's time for our first lap. And this morning we are having a fascinating conversation. We are very pleased to have us our very special guests. I call them our Bahamian ambassadors. We have Christopher Davis, aka Sankofa Flamingo. We have Angelique Mckay, the Queen Mother, and Micheal Pateman. Michael, what's your new name?
I forget how to say the title, but it means warrior of Junkanoo.
Warrior of. I
Chris,
didn't
you're
hear
muted. Oh. Oops.
Warrior of.
Junkanoo.
Of Junkanoo. Oh, okay. And so, ladies and gentlemen, we have distinct. Yes, ma'am.
I just wanted to clarify the meaning of Asafo Churiba, warrior queen or queen of the warriors.
Thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
Warrior, I may have to use that because I'm not sure I'm going to get the other one right, but I'll practice. Don't worry about a thing. And so, ladies.
I'll hold your hand. I'll hold your hand.
Oh, you know, we've been holding hands for a little while now.
Mm-hmm.
And so, ladies and gentlemen, this morning we are discussing the recent trip to Ghana and the research into where really the word Junkanoo, who was he? Where did it come from? And we are deeply indebted to Chris Davis in particular for his determination, first and foremost, to delve into this so that he could enlighten all of us. And that is what he is sharing with us this morning, along with his fellow travelers. And so let's get back into the discussion. And so now, this is the third trip. Chris, you definitely know the ropes by now. So when I say journey, we journeying with you. So we fly from Nassau to where?
From Nassau, well, ideally, getting there would probably be different for different people, depending on if you have US visa or not, depending on whatever.
But we want to know how you going. How did you go?
I go on through London, one stop in London. You know, that flight could be anywhere from 7.5 hours to 9.5 hours.
From Nassau to London.
Right. And then from London to Accra, which is the capital of Ghana.
How long was that?
About 8.
Long enough.
Yeah, it's long enough. About 8 hours. It's just where it's 8 hours to England, of course.
You think I could ever reach? You think I could ever get there?
That's how it is.
Brace yourself. That's a long one.
But it's so funny, just putting this out there, if you think about it, let's say we had a direct flight from here.
Yes.
To the Haunted region.
To be my next question, right?
That literally probably would be like a 6-hour flight, probably.
Exactly.
1 6 hour flight.
Yeah.
As opposed to 14 hours, 15, 16 hours in the air to get there as it stands right now. But this is all part of pilgrimage, This is all
but I wonder to what extent. I've often wondered about that when you look at the map, why we can't just zoom straight across the Atlantic. And I'm wondering if it's the whole colonial thing, where the way the routes are structured, that you got to go to Europe or you got to go somewhere north to be able to come back, That's a lot of flying.
This is why we say sorry, this is why we say underdeveloped versus developed nations. You know what I mean? And that so-called development is what allows them to have these massive airports like Heathrow, that they could do all these things. So whereas us, we still playing catch up in a lot of ways, especially when you look at it from a nations against different nations perspective. But it's like you say, it's very interesting. And then what you find is so many other places all around the world. So, for example, you have a very, very, very strong Chinese population in Vancouver, and as far away as that is, they get direct flights from Vancouver to China. And that connection is not as strong or even as precious as the one that we share with the Hunter people. So wishful thinking maybe, but maybe you will see the day where you have a black Bahamian / black Hunter owned airport, where you seeing this happening, man. So that would be a great prospect to think about for sure.
We have to build a demand for it. If the demand is there, the airline will put the flight in, because the airlines are about making money.
Absolutely.
People traveling all over the place to do Junkanoo all over the world. You're going Bahamas this time, you're going Ghana at this time, you're going Belize at this time, you're going, So
Yeah, gotcha.
So that's what we love.
So,
that's what we love about it.
So you get in a car, and then what happened next?
But you have numerous options. See, that's the thing about
no, I mean what you all did. Your trip.
We spent was it one night in Accra, I think, before we left. Yeah, pretty much just to catch ourselves, get our bearings. And then we had a big van. And this is where we soldiered it out to essentially set the framework, we should say, for when others come and follow. And we drove actually essentially across the southern coast of Ghana, from southeast Ghana to about the southwestern extremity of Ghana, where Princess Town is, which is where Junkanoo is from and where we are directly attached to, right? And so we stopped to that trip that Dr. Pateman was talking about actually in Elmina. That was our first stop. However, as you pass there, you pass Winneba. And Winneba is where you have what is known as the Fancy Dress Festival. But I would actually compare that very much to Junkanoo in other places, including the Bahamas to a certain degree, where you see post-colonization, where it's kind of been watered down, and that is where this fancy dress kind of notion comes from. Particularly, and I spoke to one of the directors of the Winneba Festival on my first trip, and we spoke about this, and he says that, of course, it's much, much older, but it's just been called the fancy dress since that time in about 1912 to 1914. But anyway, from there we continue driving, and then you drive from Takanad to Kundi, which is the Twin City, which is the federal capital of the Ahanta region. And then from there, it's about, Pateman, I always get these times mixed up, so I'm one misleading people. Yeah, so I think it's like an hour drive or so to get to Princess Town, but there's this town named Agona that's kind of central to all of the villages that are along the coast. And it's these villages that are along the coast, particularly Princess Town, Buswa, real name Oluwasua, Dix Cove, which is where Fort Metal Cross is, which is where Dr. Pateman and I believe that is where the first slave ship may have come from, to the Bahamas. Right, to the Bahamas, to the Bahamas, and the king there bears a striking resemblance to one of our top-ranking political officials. I can say who, but I sure.
Well, he looks just like Chester Cooper.
Yeah.
I mean,
wow.
Wow.
Like Chester Cooper, slightly younger, slightly in better shape, brother.
Child, Chester, I gotta take up for you, child. I hope Chester didn't hear that.
No, man. I only teasing, man. Chester.
I know.
They actually supported the last trip. Quite they gave us some good support. That of course, without that, and of course, the Antiquities Monuments Museum Corporation as well as other private entities like Youth Empowerment through Soccer International, Q Club, Quality Home Center as well. Of course, Quality Group of Companies as well. Notice all of them name Quality, so they know what they support. And of course, as we grow as a foundation, more and more people will be able to be involved in various capacities. You know, and it's still growing. The research is just beginning. And it's extremely exciting for all of us as well. You know, this when I got the incredible honor, that's still kind of surreal to me. I still can't believe it happened. I don't even like to talk about it too much because I don't even know how to talk about it, because it's just such a, I know, I almost feel like I win the cultural lottery or something like that. I don't know. I feel extremely fortunate. You know, and I never knew that I was being viewed in such a way by exposing all of this culture. But I can tell you this, once you arrive in a Hunter, it's absolutely magical. Angelique will definitely, she is the best person to tell you about that. And when you see the documentary, you will also get a feel for that. Somebody like you, Mrs. Ferguson, yeah, like, you know what, when you do get there, and I'm sure it'll happen, yeah, it'll just be magical, and I don't think it'll be a shred of doubt in your heart anymore. But and then particularly when you see it even goes beyond just some of the research that we're doing. The things you see them do, the way they talk, even the fillers they use in their language, like, yeah, when the men bag, they say, yeah, you know, they say when they bag, and they be like it's like, hey, wow, you know, so it's just, yeah, it's just incredible.
The whole language over there.
Yeah, beautiful. Well, as you mentioned my doubts, let me tell you what my challenges are. Respectfully, let me tell you what questions I have in my mind that I need you all to assuage. First of all, from a personal point of view, I was told on my father's side that we are Yoruba. Okay, here's my challenge. My challenge is, well, I got two challenges, and maybe I should start to ask the first question. I am trying to understand the connection between this man and the Christmas rituals that grew up in the New World. And I need to bridge that gap, because for the life of me, I cannot understand. This is my thinking. We are from a variety, a multiplicity of cultures that spread thousands of miles across West Africa. I find it hard to accept the fact that it all started in one little town, in one region, and all because of one man. For me, that kind of negates all of the customs, the religions, the ceremonies, the rituals that this wide variety of people had. We were not, in those early centuries, we were not Black, and we were not African. We were distinct cultural entities that were different. So if they tell me I'm a Yoruba, that means then that I had birthing rituals, naming the baby rituals. I had rituals that had to do with the harvest. I had rituals when somebody died. And so for me to go through this traumatic experience to get to this part of the world, why am I going to give up all of that? At least what I remember, what I treasured in my heart and in my memory. Why am I going to replace all of that with hero worship of one man? I don't get it. I just believe that I am very wary, and you and Michael know far more about this than me. This is me from my gut now. I am very wary of these European narratives, what perhaps the British thought they heard. And in her book, Dr. Nicolette Bethel gives us at least 3 or 4 different options in terms of cultures that might have added bits and pieces of this festival, and so that's where my challenge is. I just cannot believe that these Christmas rituals, and I can't believe that our ancestors gave up all of their heritage and their history to glorify one man. I just can't believe it. No.
Let me just,
Chris, before you start, let me just jump in, Chris.
Go ahead, Freya. Go ahead. Yeah.
All right, so I'm going to really let this answer come from Christopher because this is his research and he should sign. But one of the things that I do is I help him protect certain things until the book comes out. So I'm just reminding him the Christmas day is significant, but I don't want him to tell why because that has to come out in the book. That's one of those things.
Gotcha.
And that's why I jumped in. I didn't want him to. He's quick to just talk about stuff.
But what I will say too, though, remember what we're talking about. This man is the namesake of Junkanoo. And when you listen and when you look at the transatlantic slave trade, first 3 ships that came here, speaking specifically to the Bahamas, first of all, came from this region. Remember, I explained how when you look at Junkanoo in Jamaica, for example, where it's centered around the Maroon villages, you don't really see so many other cultural groups practicing it as you see it here. So uniquely in the Bahamas, what you saw was this group over several decades of these people, all of whom would have been familiar with this man, John Quao, that I actually show in my book. I show you people that have written about their lives, who have written what they call slave narratives, who mention Junkanoo, who were even from tribes that were enemies of Junkanoo. So first of all, one of the reasons is because this man was actually that profound. He actually was that profound. And we just actually uncovered more research in the last few weeks that and Dr. Pateman, everyone was blown away by it. The Hunter people are absolutely blown away by it. And it shows how profound that was. Secondly, remember now, so we have many very different aspects of our Junkanoo. So it's not like they put their culture down and picked up Junkanoo. This was something that they met here. So just like if, for example, say 50,000 Bahamians get mad and they say, you know what, we move into Trinidad and Tobago, but we want to participate in Carnival. They can still be Carnival, but they can probably have a Junkanoo group within that Carnival. And so this is where you see aspects like tom-tom drum that comes from, for example, the Temne, the Wolof, and the Sira people of Senegal. And then you have the Gombe drum. It comes from the Mende people of Mali, which are permanent fixtures in Junkanoo. But I can give away too much, as Dr. Pateman told me as well. But there are also other
I want to say something too, Christopher, because you're going to get carried away, and we're going to have to. Our job is to hold you down.
Okay, then, yeah. So trust me, this
is to hold you down.
And I'm sure you will be convinced because there are certain characteristics that we saw in further aspects of their festivals that we didn't see in October, and that they actually put on specifically for us, Ancros, Asafo drums, and then it really came home. And there's certain features that only us in the Bahamas share with them. And so it wasn't that other Africans came, but it's what they met here. And then secondly, this is actually a pretty obvious one. And this actually comes from an interview I did with Professor Kimani Nahusi, who is originally from Guyana, but he is the associate historical professor. And this was when I was actually discussing the theory, what he thinks about the theory of them saying that slave masters, quote unquote, allowed us to do it. And it simply was a matter of us celebrating what we wanted to do. All Africans had their celebrations, but this was something that they would have met here. Furthermore, they became so widespread, particularly as the general slave trade all over the Americas was drawing from the Gold Coast. And as his legend grew, that's just why it exists in certain pockets. But then you could see that uniqueness and why it's so huge in the Bahamas, or why it's so huge just in certain pockets within certain countries, not the national festival in areas like Jamaica. Now, with the Yoruba, you could argue that the Yoruba were actually the largest group to come here in the Bahamas. But at the same time, we still have ASU. You know, we still do certain cultural practices that we don't acknowledge. Like everyone know Grammy run things in the family. You know, we could say what we want, but we know
still got Bala and Ditto.
All right, then, and the naming system, how we all type people name Bala and Gullah and just the, you know, so that is a fabric of our being. But John Kwao speaks to the namesake of this parade and what the parade was actually about. And then also you could see why, oh, I see we got to go on break just to close. You could see why it was because as other people learn, you enslaved, and then you hear about this great man who fight against slavery, and you meet all these thousands or hundreds of Africans already celebrating it. So you probably would tag right along. Just, it's just culture, you know? So just as you would go to Trinidad Carnival, you enjoy it, so you going back again next year. And then, you know, so similar to that as well, you know?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
well,
right.
We will continue. You ain't got me completely yet, but we will continue, ladies and gentlemen.
Right.
We have to run to our next break. We're having a wonderful time in here with these Bahamians who have added so much to our knowledge. And so we'll be right back after this break.
Right. Yarby.
It's for men, about men, by men. It's informative. It's inspiring. It's here on AM 1540, Power 104.5 FM, with yours truly, Sean Innes, Sundays at 5 p.m. Tune in.
Saturday evenings will never be the same again. A show for young people, made by young people. The Youth Perspective, where we seek to positively display the youth of our nation. This and every Saturday at 8 p.m. on 1540 AM, Power 104.5 FM, the national voice of the Bahamas.
You see what's going down, babe? Them jokers running free. You need to go report what you see.
Me? For them to clip me next?
I ain't saying going to police directly.
Well, what you talking about then?
Call Crime Stoppers Bahamas. You can tell them directly what's going down.
Wait, Crime Stoppers is the police, you know?
No, my boy. When you call Crime Stoppers, it is answer your call in Miami or Toronto, Canada. So no one can know it's you. And you don't have to give them no personal information because they just give you a pin.
Wait, what you talking about though?
They got their own system down there to get the information where it need to go. I just saying, if you ain't got nothing to lose, you might as well get these jokers off the street.
True, and so Crime Stoppers is the one that's give you plenty money for that hot news, eh?
Yeah, and if you help the police with the arrest, from pin, you get some marlins. So I just saying, win-win, my boy.
So what the number is, though? Free up the number.
Do the right thing. Stop the crime before it's your time.
Bing.
Call Crime Stoppers Bahamas today at 328-8477 or from the Family Islands, 242-300-8477. It's safe, and the life you save may be your own.
This public service announcement was brought to you by Crime Stoppers in conjunction with the Broadcasting Corporation of the Bahamas.
Examples of excellence. At the age of 8 years, John Jonathan Ragnar Munnings participated in Junkanoo for the first time with Spurgeon Smith's Junkanoo group. In 1958, he became a founding member of the Valley Boys, and in 1963, he became a founding member of the Mighty Vikings. And then that is where, as a co-leader, he earned the Viking name Ragnar as his nickname. In 1964, John was a founding member of the Saxons and participated with the group until 2001. On New Year's Day 1968, Ragnar carried the crawfish as the lead piece and led the Saxons to its first victory on Bay. In all of these groups and in others, John has instructed younger members of the art of ringing bells and blowing whistles and foghorns. He has also taught pasting techniques and has shared his knowledge of lead and backline costumes. John Ragnar Munnings, legend and pioneer in the development of Junkanoo in the Bahamas, this week's inductee into the Junkanoo 242 Shack of Excellence.
Welcome back. You're listening to Junkanoo 242. It's the second lap. This morning we are pleased. We have some special guests. The shack full this morning. Everybody in the shack. We brought the team from Sankofa Flamingo to tell us about their recent trip to Ghana. Mr. Chris Davis, Angelique Mckay, and Mr. Micheal Pateman. And before we go on, Arlene, we need to do a show on nicknames and how people get their nicknames. How you get a nickname Ragnar?
Charlotte, because Ragnar is a Viking name.
I know. You know, like, but anyway, that's just a sidebar.
And you would be surprised how many people don't know his real name is Joan. Morning, Ragnar.
But yeah, we're diving into the story of we're diving into the roots of Junkanoo. These guys have been doing a lot of research, a lot of uncovering, piecing different pieces of sources together for us to get us down to some factual stuff, or as close as possible as we could to some factual stuff. Returning from the trip from Ghana, you know, I want to go to Mr. Pateman, who has, you know, who speaks about this research and a lot of stuff that you guys have been doing. What could I would say, what some of the things that we could look forward to coming out in this book that you guys are putting together? That you would say, you know, it's going to blow the minds of people or help to clarify some stuff. Like Arlene is saying, she's having a problem digesting.
Well, before I talk about that, I think I'm going to defer to Queen Mother, because I know she wanted to talk about some of those cultural traditions, because whenever we talk about this, there's certain things that she always talks about that stood out. So before I jump into it, I'm going to turn it over to Angelique.
Hi again, y'all. I'm so upset that I can't see everything, but anyways, I know Mrs. Ferguson would have mentioned earlier about traditions. It's difficult to think that we didn't bring things with us, and things were certain things were missing. But having been there, having walked the streets, having sat down at the table, interacting with the people of West Ghana, the Yahanta people, eating from their pots, we brought everything with us. Let no one fool you and tell you we did not bring things back. We brought everything. We brought them down to when we were part of the initiation ceremony to bring us back into the Yahantas. We had Cersei, which is the all-powerful healing medication in the Yahanta region, and it's also all-powerful here in the Bahamas. We sat down and we had light soup with fish, and no one could tell me that isn't stew fish. No one could tell me that's not stew fish that we bought. We were in Boussois, and I saw a conch shell and my eyes opened wide. I'm like, do y'all eat this? They eat conch. We eat conch, right? Okra soup. They have okra soup. We have okra soup. One of the things that stood out to me as well was they suck their teeth just as much as we do when they're annoyed.
It's an African expression. We only put the English words to it. And to cut your eye is an expression as well that we brought with us.
We brought everything. And one of the things, anyone that knows me knows my love for Cat Island, right? When I walked the streets in Pocasoo, when I landed in Pocasoo, I felt as if I was in Cat Island. The only difference for me, something just seemed different. And then it kept coming to my mind, and I realized the difference between my feel in Cat Island and Pocasoo was that there were a lot of children in Pocasoo and not a lot of children running around in Cat Island. So not one day in Ghana did I feel like I was away in a foreign land. Not one day of that entire trip. I never had that feel like, oh, that's enough of this foreign land now. Time to come home. We actually were living out prophecy being fulfilled on that trip back to Ghana, because it was this sense that we were a part of stories that were told from generation to generation that the stolen children of the Ahanta region would one day return. And we were those stolen children, the children of those children that returned home. And we felt that every minute of every day that we were in Ahanta land.
Beautiful.
And that's why I will say strongly every time that I am a Ahanta. I know that emphatically that I am.
Yeah, beautiful. And it's almost not exactly, but it's reminiscent of the whole root story. You're able to go back and trace some things specifically, and that is very special. And I always fumble around every Saturday morning. I always struggle to be able to open up the Facebook link, the live link, and the chat. And we want to say good morning to so many of our brothers and sisters who are joining us on Facebook. From the motherland. We are absolutely thrilled to have you in the E-Shack with us this morning. It's truly a privilege to have you here. I think this might be the largest international audience that we have ever had. We always have Bahamians who are living abroad, but this is very special. Yes, thank you so much for joining us this morning. And so yes, and so let's move forward now. So you got me in Pocassoon, and it was a fabulous experience. And what did you do after that?
I'll add something to this too, since Pateman hesitated.
Well, so I was talking, but I was muted. You could go ahead, though, Queen Mother. Go ahead.
Well, I'll stand down to my nana and let him share the information.
Yeah, so within Pocassoon now, this is what you will find. First of all, the people. You will find Abu Sanin Augustine York, who is the resident chief of Princestown / Pocassoon right now, who essentially sits in the throne that Jan Kwa used to sit in from his family political ties. Right? You also have Alex Kofi, who is he's an oral historian and a naturalist, very intelligent guy, very, very close, my right-hand man over there in Pocassoon. And he also represents the traditional council, of which I am also a part of now in Pocassoon as well. And what he will show you, he will give you just a tour. And when he gives you this tour, you will meet our other brother right there who does the tour at Junkanoo's fort. And you will see.
So stick a pin. When you say he does the tour, now even before you made the link with them,
right,
there was a tour.
Well, yes, but Junkanoo is a national hero for them. But he was never really firmly connected. There was only one other guy that I am aware of, Daniel Kofi, who was another historian, who was making fleeting connections of him to the West. But yeah, so the answer.
So had they made the link between Jan Kwao and Junkanoo before you got there?
No, the link was only made by this one guy, Daniel Kofi. Another guy, Osway Tutu II, no relation, who is a professor at the University of Ghana, if I'm not mistaken. There was an old historian who was writing in the 40s and 50s named Kwame Aboa Daku, and there was some other guys who was making the connections, but it wasn't ever confirmed. And it wasn't even really specifically to our festivals. Some of it was very vague, and just because they just knew that we used to have tens of millions of Ahanta people, and now we're less than 2 million. And that is chiefly because many of these Akans that we know were taken into the Western Hemisphere were in fact Ahanta and Nzima people who are a lot lesser known now, mainly because of the effects that the transatlantic slave trade had on them. So it's quite complex.
Can I add to that also?
Right. Yeah.
So one of the things that we learned while we were over there is the Ahanta people themselves have been very quiet on who they were, or who they are, I should say. They've not told their story. They've been approached by numerous organizations. And when we sat with one of the traditional councils, they just listed off this who's of organizations, and they've always denied it. They didn't feel like the time was right to tell their story. And then they said to us, the time is now right. We want you to tell our story. So there's going to be a lot of information that's going to come out that's going to challenge the narratives. I think the whole narrative of Junkanoo or John Connie or whatever he was known of from the African side was told by other people, not by the Ahantas. So the story is going to shift. There's other prominent figures who I think we'll talk a little bit about later on, who we can now tell their stories. And so we have, this is why Christopher's research is so important, because this is going to be the first time that the Ahanta narrative is going to be inserted into this story. And the narrative is their story.
Yeah. And of course, you know, we have very healthy distrust of colonial narratives. And you know, a lot of our challenges over the years have come from the fact that we were only seeing it from one perspective. The historiography of it was cause for concern, you know, because I always remember Nicolette saying, reject any narrative. She said it right on the show, reject any narrative that makes us look stupid. And you know, I just had some challenges with certain things that just seemed not to add up instinctively. No research, just you know your parents, your grandparents, and you just know certain things didn't go that way. You know, and that's why I asked the question about the one man, because they were not going to give up all of their customs and traditions and rituals for one man. So to me, there's a difference between the name of the festival, which even so, there are other festivals that West African festivals that have similar names. And so even so, you know, that is where my challenge comes. And why are we all honoring one man, and not to be disgusting or absolutely silly, you know? But if I am on a slave ship, it means, at least where I was concerned, he was not successful. Why am I honoring him? And I had my own rituals and ceremonies. That's my challenge. That's what continues to provoke my questioning, you know. But one thing is sure, undeniable, is your research is critical. It is valuable, and I thank you for it. You have answered so many questions, and you know, we will always have questions, because as Michael said, that is what history does. You challenge everything, you question everything, and you know, so even the questioning is an important part of the story. But you know, let me say sincerely that, you know, I really appreciate what you have done. I was never interested in research. I've come to understand over the years that my strength is the storyteller. Now, once you get the information, I could tell it so that people will want to hear it and listen. But I sitting in no archives for hours and hours going through them old books. And so I am doubly grateful for what you and Dr. Pateman continue to do to enlighten us. It's extremely important. Yeah, we really appreciate it. So DF, you have been very quiet. I know if Darren asked the hand, but here we wouldn't be able to get a word in. I know he would have a whole list of questions. He is traveling to his son's graduation this morning, and we forgot to offer his apologies earlier, but we sincerely congratulate Isaac and his parents. Yeah, DF, go ahead.
I really didn't have a lot of questions on it. You asked a lot of questions. I was more, you know, just taking in, you know, what they learned, because I know every time they go on a mission, they go on a fact-finding mission. You know, from the last show, they keep on uncovering stuff, and I know they was looking forward, you know, to the last 2 trips. So this is really more of a learning and gathering information for me on this segment. and it's so much to see that they have uncovered even a lot more that is going on to add pieces to this story. So it's something that I've been interested in during the whole show. All right, but we gotta run.
I'd like to make break.
We gotta run to our final break. We'll pick that up right when we come back. Folks, we are tuned into Junkanoo 242. We'll be right back after this break.
Here on this radio station is governed by IRCA's Code of Practice for Content Regulation. The Code of Practice covers matters relating to program content that are of concern to the community, such as local content, news, current affairs, and programs for children, advertising, including political advertisements, and the responsibilities associated with broadcasting in the Bahamas. The code also covers aspects such as access services for the hearing and visually impaired, and the procedure for lodging a complaint about anything broadcast by this station. The code is available on the IRCA website at www.ircabahamas.vs. To receive a copy of the code by mail or in person, you may telephone IRCA at 242-393-0234. Family Island dialing is toll-free at 1-242-300-8722, or you may send a request by email to info@ircabahamas.bs.
And now for news off the shack wall. Happy birthday greetings goes out to Linda Stubbs, Carnell Miller, Kelly Ferguson, Jermaine Francis, and Renald Safront, aka Killer. And to you and everyone who is celebrating their birthdays in the up and coming week, we wish you a happy and a blessed new year. Condolences to the family of all who are grieving the loss of their loved ones at this time. Our prayers and our thoughts are with you in this time of bereavement. Hey, the last day for JDA nominations. Let me tell you all now, when these jackets get given out, we don't want no crying, no sighing, no sobbing, because you had your chance. Okay? Honorees for the 2022 Junkanoo Independence Achievement Award. The recipient of this award is one who has made significant contributions to the development of Junkanoo in the Commonwealth of the Bahamas, has been involved in Junkanoo for not less than 25 years, exhibits exemplary character traits and behavior, displays selflessness in pursuit of the art of Junkanoo, and has a strong appreciation for and pride in the Junkanoo art form and the culture of the Bahamas. Please email your nominations before end of day today. 11:59 p.m. today is the deadline. JDAAWARDS@yahoo.com. That's JDAawards@yahoo.com. The nomination should include the name of the nominator, the name of the nominee, a brief description in line with those accomplishments of the above criteria. The JDA reserves the right to refuse anybody. They have the final decision. And guess what? It is Saturday, April the 30th. We are 34 hopeful weeks away from Bay.
Well, you sound dead hopeful. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. We are in, let's go to Bay. We are in the closing moments of a beautiful show this morning. We have three outstanding Bahamians and Junkanoos who are in the E-Shack and who have been sharing their information with us, and it has been a true delight. And so as we prepare to wrap up, we are going to ask each of them for their final thoughts, because you know Ronald Sims ain't got no conscience. He'll chop you right in the middle of your sentence. So we have to stay on target regarding time. So let's begin with Naya. Naya, your closing words. What do you want to leave the Bahamas and the world with?
I want the world to know and to understand that we are African. We're from the greatest continent. And that I am a hunter. I am Queen Mother, Asafa Chiriba of Pocasoo, and the Ahanta people of West Ghana. And one of the things that we will be doing under the Sankofa Flamingo umbrella, along with the Junkanoo Commandos, is we will be telling the story of the Ahantas. We will be bringing people to the Ahanta region. We will be developing cultural heritage tours so that when persons come on those pilgrimage to the Ahanta region, they're fully submerged in the culture of the people, and they get the truth firsthand from the persons who live it, the persons who were taught it, and the persons who experienced it being handed down from generation to generation. I am Junkanoo. I am a hunter.
Excellent. Excellent. Thank you, Naya. And of course, I know this goes without saying, but I say it anyhow. Of course, with all the necessary safeguards in place to ensure that the very things that people come to see are not destroyed by them. And so we, as we have seen in many other places, including the Bahamas. And so we thank you so much for being here with us this morning. Doc, your last words.
All right, I'm going to have a couple of last words. So
go right ahead.
Off for a minute, so I'm not sure if we mentioned the pilgrimage that we're planning in October.
No.
So I want to make sure that everybody pays attention to the Sankofa Flamingo Facebook page, where we'll release these details. We are planning a pilgrimage where we will take people to our Mecca, to Jerusalem.
Excellent.
And they will get to visit these sites. So I just want to make sure we said that before we went off the air. But to answer a question that was asked of me earlier when I deflected to Queen Mother, I was told African proverb a lot growing up, and then the Right Honorable Perry Christie would say it to me when I worked at Antiquities quite a bit, and then we heard it a lot when we were in Ghana. And tell the lion tells the story. The tale of the hunt will glorify the hunter.
Yes.
So we have to, this is us now telling our story. I was kind of worried how I would be perceived, because I am very proud of who I am. I'm half black, I'm half white. My dad's from England, my mother's from the Bahamas. And I just did not know how I would be perceived as somebody
from Cat Island, Bahamas.
Oh, Cat Island, Bahamas. Yeah, we have Cat Island people in here.
Right.
Cat Island, Berry Islands. I'm Bahamian. My roots are almost every island.
Deep
in the Bahamas, and I'm proud of both ancestries. And actually, my son did his DNA, and there is DNA from Ghana. So I plan on exploring that a little more.
Excellent.
Too.
Excellent.
But this is our chance to tell those stories. Fort Gross Friedrichsburg, which is the fort in Princestown, when the Germans abandoned it and sold it to the Dutch, John Quao took it over and refused to give that to the Dutch. He fought the Dutch for almost 30 years and suppressed the slave trade in that area. So we talk about these 3 slave ships that came from the Bahamas, from the region. Those were the first 3 slave ships. So you talked about how the culture changed and the Junkanoo evolved. They came here and met very few Africans. So they brought their culture with them. Whenever a new slave ship came, they added to that culture, but that cultural event stayed. These first people were the warriors of Jean Quao. They were his people. So of course, his name would have evolved and stayed there. Culture changes, it evolves. And I'm gonna stop so Christopher can get, or I should say, Nana, and start calling him by his title, Nana John Quao II. And he doesn't like to brag about it, but this is a real title. It's not an honorary title given to him. Once he got this title, wherever we went and they were told that was his title, he was treated with the level of respect of a chief in their tradition. So everybody, this is a legitimate title.
Excellent. Well, two very quick comments. As you related to what you said, as you talk about the pilgrimage to our Mecca, to Ghana, once the package includes some tranquilizers, I reach up. Just make sure I could stand that long flight and be good to go. And secondly, it's I'm really touched when you said so honestly that you did not know how you would be perceived. It never crossed my mind. But I am so glad that my first instinct was to make the connection between you and Junkanoo, which is what we do with just about everybody who comes on the show. And so that we got out well. Don't never worry about that, man. You as our people. We are just thrilled to have you here this morning. And so now we come to Nana has the final, the last words. Please go right ahead.
So what Junkanoo represents, what the Ahanta people represents,
to make the connection between us.
And by default, what Bahamian historiography represents, whether we knew it or not, because remember, a lot of this has been swept under the proverbial rug. One thing that we can say that we are victims of here in the Bahamas, and it's a common saying, they don't teach us our real history, they teach us our history, This is something that we can all be extremely proud of. As more information is revealed about who this man was, who the Ahanta people are, and who we are, it will be extremely profound. And what we hope to see is that Junkanoo as a whole, and all of its variations around the world, particularly here in the Bahamas, where of course it's our predominant festival, we hope to see it gain intrinsic value in all of these places, not only where Junkanoo happens or has happened, but to the entire diaspora, because it represents freedom, anti-colonization, and the like. I would also like to encourage Bahamians to actually look into the research as you have. When the book comes out, try to get your hands on a copy. Even if you can't buy one, you might know someone who has one, and take a look at it. And when the documentary comes out as well, I think that there will be certain visuals in there that was masterfully captured by, Dr. Pateman.
And Young Whale, don't forget.
Yeah, right. I was just about to get into that. And of course, last and certainly not least, I have to shout outs and thank yous to our partners over there, people who've supported us. So that's going from the Honorable Stephen Kenya Arthur, Municipal Assembly Member of Boothray, and one of our main guys, one of the linchpins of our organization, Alice Kofi, the oral historian who I mentioned earlier. Of course, Augustine Abusin Yor from Princesstown, and of course, Atumfo Badu Bantu the 15th, his entire family and traditional council, as well as the family and all of the descendants of Jan Kwao, who shared information with us, and all the descendants of Badu Bantu as well. Young Whale, the guys there over at Ocean Radio, Kobe, Justice, shout out to everybody. Yeah, Sam, Akpo, Big Sam, we should say. Akpo, who Bahamians, some of these guys they call in Bahamians will get to meet very soon. And then you'll be able to hear some of this from their perspective as well. And they will be able to share some of the cultural similarities they see by being here as well, And so it's going to be something that's quite profound. And I see DF was saying, hopefully, God willing, in 34 weeks, let's speak it into existence. I think that this Junkanoo coming up is going to be a very historic one. It's going to be one that brings some much needed unity locally and globally as well.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure to have you all here. And Chris, I just want to also say thank you for the contribution that you made to my book, my Junkanoo book for children, which is in production and will soon come out. I had to get you to make sure I got it right. And
I'll make sure I grab that too. Yeah,
Oh,
make
yes.
sure
Thank
grab
you
that.
so much.
That's for the
And
kids.
so, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you all have been as edified as we have this morning. Thank you so much for joining us on this very important show. And until next week, remember now, this is Junkanoo 242. It's all about you wherever you are in the 242 and in the world. And until next week, stay safe. Practice all safety protocols and make sure that you let everything that we all do prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that we are all proud to be Bahamian. We'll see you next week.
Thank you.